Hi, this is Steve.
This is Bob.
This is Jay.
We are Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show.
And this week, guys, we're going to be talking about Predator Badlands to continue our Season 3 theme of the science and science fiction. So right out of the gate, guys, I'm just curious, did you like the movie or not?
It was a fun romp. It was very much in the Predator franchise.
Totally enjoyed it.
But it was a solid B, I think, just as a movie. And I have a lot of problems with the writing and the plot choices that they made.
Yep.
I'd give it a little bit of a better grade.
You're very forgiving, though.
Sure, the science has some issues, and we're going to talk about that. But just the combination of the planet, the death planet, right, and a synth, and this new take on predators. I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun, totally enjoyable, well worth.
It was eye candy. It was great eye candy.
Yeah, hey.
And there were a lot of choices that were made that were optimized the eye candy, even at the expense of making sense.
Yeah.
Definitely, and that's typical. That's super typical with sci-fi. We're seeing, clearly to me, the writers either didn't care or didn't know.
You're right.
Or that I shouldn't exclude the
No,
director.
you could almost imagine the conversation, but that doesn't make any sense. Who cares? It'll look cool, right?
Yeah.
That's basically that conversation probably happened 20 times in this movie.
And this is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey, which was a fantastic. I mean, arguably better. I think it did better in the box office and got better reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to do something that was a sequel of sorts. It's in the same kind of universe, but he didn't want to do a sequel that was like the same thing as the first movie that did so well. And in that regard, I think it was a great direction to go in. And it had a lot of interesting stuff in here. A lot of, as you say, a lot of great eye candy that you don't see a lot in these types of movies.
Yeah, the concept was good. I really did enjoy the main character. I enjoyed the two main characters. I enjoyed, the backbone of the movie certainly seemed...
It's like a buddy movie, right?
It's a bro movie for sure.
Yeah.
And I dug it. I thought
Elle Fanning was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I loved her in that dual role of the sense.
A little bit of a Master Blaster thing going on there for a time.
Well, I was thinking a C-3PO and
Chewie.
And Chewie. To me, that was like the makers of the movie talk about that. That was clearly a callback to that, which is hilarious.
So I'm going to start by talking about the biology of the main creature. Do you remember the name of that creature?
Kalisk.
Steve and I thought that sounded a little bit like the Tarrasque from Dungeons and Dragons.
Probably not a coincidence, even if it's subconscious. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and it's about the same size, same amount of scariness.
The alpha of all alpha predators.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically unkillable. Maybe not for regeneration, for other things, but that's the last thing you want to go up against. Even less than a dragon, right? Right?
Regenerating creatures are always the hardest.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, got to burn them. That's basically it.
Yeah.
So
or freeze them.
I liked the creature itself. I thought the creature design was cool. The creature concept. I had a problem with the biology thing that was happening. So essentially, what happens is this creature has regeneration off the hook. It was so off the hook regeneration that, for example, if the creature is decapitated, the body parts will reach out to each other to reconnect, like, send tendrils to each other and pull them in.
Thick, big tendrils, not little, slow tendrils, like big-ass tendrils.
Yeah, so that, Steve and I were talking, and it could have been solved. That could happen if there were pheromones happening.
I'm not saying it could happen, but there's at least, in terms of like how they found each other, that's just chemotaxis, right? You secrete airborne molecules that attract each other and they find each other. That's not a problem.
The real problem, though, is the regeneration itself had a couple of things about it that were damn near impossible. I can't imagine it would work. So first thing is when you see it loses a limb or the tail. You lose a big chunk of the tail, a piece that could have easily weighed 2 or 3 tons, and it regenerates it in seconds. So it would need, first off, its biology itself would have to be so on the ready to regenerate itself, meaning it would have to have all that energy stored, all that biomass stored, and then to deploy it so quickly. That's the thing that we think is impossible, is that how could the biology function that fast?
Yeah, reactions don't happen that fast.
Yeah.
Right?
These aren't chemical reactions. Yeah. These are beyond. These are fantasy
It's
reactions.
hard to imagine any biological process that could operate that quickly. So the speed, could it have done that over days? Days would be pushing it. hours would be impossible. Seconds is fantasy.
Yeah, it's fantasy.
And that's my big problem with this movie is that it really is science fantasy.
Yeah.
They and a lot of the things that happen are pretty common fantasy tropes. Like that kind of regeneration, you wouldn't blink if it was if it was a troll in a fantasy movie because that's they regenerate.
Magic.
It's magic, right? But when you're trying to say that if it's science fiction, you're saying this is like a biological organism.
Yeah.
It's impossible to regenerate that quickly.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen that quickly.
I would argue that the head reattaching was less egregious, far less than the tail.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
it's not creating biomass.
right? It could have essentially through chemical signaling reach out. It could like take internal parts and reach out, grab it, and then just do little reconnections, and you're good. But the tail
It's still too fast,
regrowing,
but yeah.
still too fast, but not as bad as a whole tail regrowing in moments.
And
Yeah.
the creature would have to replenish that material. Like it would have to be eating massive volumes. It would also probably be creating an incredible amount of heat. Right?
That's the
to
other
move
one.
cells that quickly.
It
and-
would probably burn itself out.
Yeah.
So it would have,
do
again,
that.
if you say, how could it possibly happen? It would have needed structures or organs inside its body that's just dense tissue ready to regenerate lost body
Right.
parts.
Right.
Even better, a pseudo tail inside, ready to deploy. It's
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah,
It
who
kinda-
knows?
that's basically what it looked like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have to have really distributed function. I think the closest analogy in another science fiction movie is actually The Thing.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it would have to be each part would have to be able to function on its own, at least enough to reattach or
Right.
regrow or whatever.
Right.
It'd have to really dramatically expand its apparent size and mass very quickly.
But they always, there's so many movies that do something like this, like even The Thing, like it seems to create biomass out of
Yeah.
thin air.
Yeah.
So, I would say that is a absolute, that's a whopper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whopper. You could make a case for it being a gimme because it's kind of the central plot of the whole movie.
Yeah.
They're going after it is the ultimate predator because it can do this, and Wayland Corporation is going after it for this
Wayland Yutani.
Wayland Tukani.
Yutani.
Utani,
Yeah.
Utani, to get access to that regenerating
true.
ability.
That's-
That's
too.
yeah.
But
But it's definitely either one. It's either the whopper of all whoppers biologically,
Right.
or you got to say it's a gimme. But
Yeah, and
I, don't know.
I
probably would lean towards whopper.
Really, I think I'm leaning towards gimme now.
I
because
talked you into a gimme,
Yeah,
now I'm going back to
it's a
Whopper.
critical component to the entire
Yeah.
plot.
But let me
and
ask you-
it's so fantasy that it's like, all right, faster than light
It
travel.
didn't have to be that extreme.
a good indicator between a whopper and a gimme is this for me. I don't know about you guys.
Okay.
But for
All
me,
right.
if it takes me out of the movie, it's a whopper.
Yeah,
It has to be written in very well. It has to make sense, right? They didn't handle that well. They didn't. And I can understand them saying, oh, okay, this will be the cool thing that this creature can do. And
But you know what? Let's say instead of
Yeah.
cutting off 2 tons of tail, it just made a nice slice through it. You think that's a fatal wound, and we see the wound
Yes.
closing over
Yeah.
the course of the rest of the fight. Like in the course of a couple of minutes, this fatal wound closed up. That's still really
Ridiculously fast.
ridiculously impressive regeneration
Yeah.
without breaking the laws of physics and having us speculate about these ridiculous organs that it must be housing
Right.
and how could it possibly be generating that much mass and energy and blah blah blah. But it still would have worked for the plot. So I think that pushes it back into the whopper territory.
Okay, all right, that's reasonable. But here's something I thought: how would you have killed it without the freezing?
You would have to melt it like with acid or fire.
But what if you cut off its head and then separated its head really far away, unreasonably far?
Well,
what would happen?
Yeah,
Could it
would it
grow a
grow
head?
another head? But then, of course, it wouldn't be the same
Right.
creature unless it has distributed
Distributed,
intelligence,
yeah.
right? Which it might.
So maybe that's what it
brain
would
doesn't
do.
have to be inside its head,
mean,
or maybe the head grows another body.
They dragged it out to such an extreme degree. Like, we're just speculating. We have absolutely no
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
what the answer is to that question.
Well, here in related, so it got frozen and shattered, but maybe just like the Terminator 2, would it thaw and eventually come back together and reform itself?
That would be the most reasonable way. I mean, you would think that it would, instead of growing another tail, it would just send out a pseudopod, grab the tail, and reattach it.
Yeah.
Right. That to me, that's much more.
Again,
that's what it did to the head.
It was cool eye candy to watch that tail
Yes.
regenerate. That is the decision they made every step of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Another thing
absolutely.
that makes it a whopper.
Science fantasy.
Definitely,
yeah.
Science fantasy. Okay. Now, but the other creatures on Genna were most of them were more reasonable. The dart plants that were that was fine. That weird tripedal tree creature
that was cool.
Was really cool.
I thought the razor grass was cool.
Razor. That was.
And that you can even easily make sense of that. It just uses blood for food, so anything goes through it, it cuts it, gets the blood, and then makes the grass grow. Right
now, but
I guess
the ones that were somewhat problematic for me, like the eels that spewed that super strong acid.
Yeah.
We talked about that on previous shows, and basically super strong acids cannot
alien level of acid
cannot operate that fast. It's just way too fast. Beyond,
how did he train that one to sit on his shoulder?
By feeding it.
He kept feeding it. Yeah.
So every time he fed it spit acid.
It became like a trained dolphin at that point, or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
The other one that pulled me out a little bit, the vines were cool. They were really cool. But I was thinking, all right, these vines are essentially like muscles that can move in any direction. Prehensile. They can go move in any way. But you have some vines that were hundreds of feet long, and I'm thinking, how is that supported?
Suspending itself?
Suspending it. What kind of musculature would you need to really suspend something that far? Seemed unreasonable.
Yeah, like try holding a 1 pound weight.
Well, you would need
on a stick that's 3 feet off of your arm. Like you can't do it. It's too much weight.
You would need like banyan tree support.
Yeah, you would need.
That's all they had to do.
That's all they had to do with that.
It wouldn't be impossible to make something that strong, but it would have to be very rigid to do that. But it was also very flexible at the same time.
So it'd have to switch between the two immediately.
I don't think so. That's just too implausible.
Yeah, just.
If it were not quite as flexible, then you could say, okay, it's like a tree limb.
And they gave it intelligence too. Those things were not dumb.
Not necessarily like human level intelligence, but animal level intelligence. Yeah, surely. Yeah, it would have been.
But cool eye candy.
Cool eye candy. But I would have appreciated it if it was sending down supports along the way.
Yep. Yeah, not too much to ask.
Yeah.
For a little bit extra plausibility.
Again, they're treating it like magic.
Yeah.
What looks good, don't worry about the mechanism, don't worry about the physics.
The more we talk about it, like just hearing the vines thing, it really has a D&D backbone.
Yeah,
to
total.
It really does.
Again, if this were a fantasy movie, it would have felt familiar. Like these are all things that happen in fantasy movies.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people online are commenting that this is more leaning towards sword and sorcery fantasy than science fiction.
That was the approach.
For sure.
That was the approach that they took.
All right, so we have this rating scale that we use, and we thought we'd add a visual so you guys can understand it a little bit better. So there it is. So we have hard science on the left. That's the one we like the most. Then we have soft science. Then we have a gimme. And at the very end, the bright red is a whopper, right? So let me clarify what these are. Hard science means that whatever we're discussing in the movie, that it follows science, it tracks with modern science, it's understandable, it's not breaking the laws of physics, things like that. Soft science means that it's plausible. It's not breaking the laws of physics, and it could be plausible or future technology, but it's not popping up any horrible red flags.
But it's extrapolating beyond what is currently known.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A gimme is the movie needs it, right? So in Harry Potter, for example, magic has to exist. It's a gimme. We all agree. It's fine. Magic exists in that movie.
And it is basically magic. We're saying, don't worry about it. It's magic. It's necessary for the plot.
And that's the key.
It's not even trying to pretend to be
necessary for the plot. There is no plot without this element, and that's fine. You get a couple of those. Don't abuse it though.
Sci-fi, like Star Trek, has FTL. Like whatever. Like you need these, and it's fine.
Yeah,
we don't bother. We don't hate them at all. They have to be used appropriately. But when they take it too far, when it's ridiculous, when it takes you out of the movie and you have to sit there going, "What's going on here? Why did they do that?"
Unforced error. It's like, come on, you could have done better if you just thought about it more than a few attoseconds.
Right.
Yeah, like this movie has quite a few whoppers in it. But the bottom line is, there's the meter. We hope you guys enjoy it. Now
let's use it for the biology.
Right. So for the biology, what do you guys rate it? Let's just do it together. Ready?
Yep.
This one is a
whopper.
Yeah.
We all agree it's a whopper.
So let's segue now to my favorite part. Is it the technology itself is specifically the sword, and more specifically the plasma sword that's all over the promotions for this movie. So this was
before we get to the plasma aspect of the sword, can I just talk about the sword itself?
The structure of the sword?
The structure of the sword. So I'm a little bit of a sword aficionado. So, the thing is, fantasy swords are usually impossible. You know what I mean? Swords are engineered like any other tool, and their shape and structure are all functional. So historical swords, ones that came about because they were trial and error. They were used in combat, and they had a specific purpose, and they were they have a design that meets the function. But fantasy swords are usually just they're engineered to look cool, and they're usually like completely impractical.
Right.
I actually liked that this looked like a reasonably practical sword. It was cool looking, but it had shapes that were familiar to like historical swords.
Definitely.
Right, like the end, it's clearly a chopping sword because it's like a front heavy with, with a leaf-like blade at the top.
It has a cutlass vibe.
A little bit of a cutlass vibe to it.
Sure.
It had definitely also has a piercing tip. It had features that are meant to reduce its weight, and so that actually could be a functional sword, which I appreciate. Not having a ridiculous, like unwieldable fantasy sword.
Yeah, like a Badlands.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's just a lot. Any anime sword, like there's like you can't wield that.
Yeah.
This looked like a wieldable sword.
Sure.
So I like that.
Yeah.
So
But there was a problem.
But now let's get to the
so it's
to
called
the
a
actual
plasma sword, and of course the most obvious thing about it is that this red glowing effect on the edge, and it's called a plasma sword because apparently there's plasma at the edge, right? And plasma is essentially a superheated gas where it's so hot. I mean, the sun, all stars, it's the most common form of matter in the universe. The electrons and nucleus have been separated, so you have electrons and you got positive ions going all over the place. That's a soup of plasma, and you see them in lights all the time, and they can be red, right? You've seen red lights that have based on plasma. But the problem is that how do you have to confine it? You have to confine it to the edge, and even that's doable. Actually, that's not a problem because you can use electromagnetic fields to confine it to the edge. So that's fine. The problem comes in when you're doing things with it, like cutting a tree in a half in less than a second, cutting a tree and cutting basically anything that they want to cut. This is essentially the Star Wars lightsaber for the Predator.
It functions like a lightsaber.
It absolutely functioning like a lightsaber.
And I do appreciate that it's just on the edge rather than the whole thing, because you still have a structure to it, although I still have... My problem with the sword actually is that it was foldable in half, because how do you do that and make it function? Again, that's just magic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could see good engineering making that strong. Remember, we're talking about Predator metal here. If you remember from Predator 2...
It is the engineering, though. It's not the metal. Like, how do you engineer something that can fold in half, and then when you unfold it, it's hard enough to fight with and to bang against other swords with full strength.
My point is that this is an alien metal from Predator 2. Remember, a scientist is looking at that spear tip and it's like, wow, it doesn't weigh anything. And I'm not detecting any elements from the periodic table of elements in here. So the implication, if you take that literally, the implication is that this is an element or uses elements that are unrecognizable, meaning what? That it's somewhere along the periodic table that's what?
But then they would be super heavy.
Well, I mean, yes. Super heavy, and they're radioactive. So having a stable element above,
it's just
in the
ridiculous.
120s
just
or
say
130s.
Alloy rather than element.
Right.
Problem solved.
It should have been an alloy, some sort of metamaterial alien alloy. A new element is highly
nanostructured,
highly implausible.
Yeah.
I mean, you could potentially say, oh, there's an island of stability where no, even that, okay, it doesn't last for a nanosecond. It lasts for, hours or seconds or whatever. So yeah, it's probably an alloy. But whatever it is, it's an alien metal, and it's probably super ridiculously sharp beyond what...
Then why do you need the plasma edge if it's
the plasma
ridiculously sharp?
So you can cut through trees.
But isn't the plasma the sharp part?
Yeah, that's the edge.
Well, it's the superheating. It's the superheating that adds to the sharpness of the blade. Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work mainly because no matter how sharp it is, if you're gonna have to dump such a tremendous amount of heat in a very quickly that this thing wouldn't be red. It would be glowing white, and it might even be a weapon unto itself because it would be so blinding white, and it would also spewing electricity and particles and things that it would be a weapon almost unto itself to dump that much energy that fast. And also, you would need a power source. You would need like a kilowatt or megawatt class power source
in the handle.
In the handle.
Yeah.
So
unless there's a reaction happening in the material itself that's generating all of that energy. Again, it's magic level technology.
It's so using plasma. Like, what does it say? It's like a red hot plasma. Even that sentence that doesn't make much sense because objects become red hot and glow, but a gas becoming red hot? No, it's kind of very problematic scientifically. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to dump that much energy so fast that you can cut almost anything in half immediately.
I don't think you can have that much heat and a sharp edge at the same time. That's my problem. Either you have an edge or it's hot. You can't have both.
I see what you're saying, but then
all that heat on a really sharp, very thin edge, it would not be able to. It would melt. There's no way it could hold that.
Alien metal.
Doesn't
I have
matter.
no problem with that.
I do have a
Some
problem
alien
with that.
alloy that could survive the temperatures.
Bob. Again, this is a physics problem. Because when you go down to a tiny, like as thin edge as you can, right? It's like saying, "Oh, this is a perfect sphere that's resting on a completely flat surface."
Right.
I don't care how strong the metal is. That takes infinite energy, right? It has to distort to some degree. It's like what you're saying is just you get to infinities. It's like literally impossible to have that. There's nothing, no material that could survive in that shape at that temperature.
Well,
you know what I mean?
What temperature are we talking about, and how important is the actual edge of that?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's
got to be all. That's
mainly
my
the heat.
point. It's
Okay.
not the edge at all. Like without the heat, it would have to be rounded or something. It's not a real edge. It's just the plasma edge. It is the edge.
That's what I took
That's
it.
all I'm
Okay.
saying. It's not both.
That's fine. That makes sense. I mean, why couldn't they just incorporate something like some hypersonic vibration effect, which we've seen in other genres for sure? Vibrating swords
Bob,
are
it all
definitely
makes
a
sense
thing.
when you put it through the filter of what will look cool.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
that
Then
answers
again,
all
right.
of these questions in here.
So this one is definitely
But also,
a fail with the science.
if they wanted a gimme with the plasma edge, but they didn't need to cut a tree in half, right?
Right.
They didn't need to give it a behavior that even if you give them the plasma edge, it's still impossible to do. The other thing that really pulled me out,
one of the most egregious science slaps in the face in the
he
movie.
throws the sword at this elephant-sized creature,
Way
and
bigger than an elephant.
and it bisects him down the middle. I mean, so there's no way that there would be enough momentum behind that weapon.
Unless there was no resistance.
There would have to be no
zero
resistance. But the other thing is the creature's bigger than the sword.
And the sword's this long, and the creature's 3 or 4 times that, 5 times that. Where did the extra cutting come from?
Yes.
It was
but it
very
looked cool.
It was silly.
Yeah, but it
it
looked
was.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Again,
and on
it
top
was
of that,
silly.
they took it even one step further. He throws the sword. It cuts the creature in half, and then he's inside the creature because it's passing past him, and he pulls meat out of the creature to eat. Come on! And this is supposed to be the shitty runt of that family.
Right.
No, not good. Again, it looked cool, but it was so. It took
I don't
me
even
so
think
out.
it looked cool. Because
scene? Yeah.
Yeah, because when something is that stupid, it ceases to look cool. And then it just takes you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, really? You doing the bisect thing? Like it's a cliche.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
wouldn't mind seeing a bisection like that, but a little,
I mean, if they just did
not
the
as
head maybe, and then it
cartoonish.
sort of like bisected his head and then ledged in to the shoulders. Okay, all right, that could have made that work. They didn't have to do the whole thing. I mean,
I'm curious to know if that sword also cooked that meat that he pulled out of it.
All right, guys. So what's the vote on the plasma sword? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Let's just say the plasma sword is a
Whopper.
Another
That's
Whopper.
another Whopper.
A pretty Whopper, but still a Whopper.
But quickly, I mean, that was the big
Yeah,
hero weapon in
that's
the
a big hero,
movie.
yes.
But there's a couple other things. You get a very quick shot of like this plasma bow, which to me is also magic. That's a magic bow. Like we see,
It
you know.
totally looked like a magic bow. I know.
Do you remember the
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons animated cartoon? It was basically almost essentially the
string,
same
You have an
thing.
energy
and-
string
yeah.
and an energy bolt.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's just like
I always wanted that weapon. By the
It's a
way.
great, it's a
such
cool weapon.
it's
Again,
great.
if you're in a magic universe, it's a cool weapon.
essentially almost unlimited until you lose your magic charge type of thing. Some sites online were saying that the bolt was plasma, but the implication was that the string wasn't necessarily plasma.
I mean,
it certainly
it's
looked
always
like
there. The thing is,
It
the string
certainly
is
looked
always
like-
there. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it charges the bolt. I don't know.
And
it just
remember,
didn't look right.
in the beginning of the movie, he shot that red glowing string thing into the rocks, and he flew up it.
Yeah.
That was maybe a similar thing. So it's I don't know what to make of it. But the bolt is plasma again, very problematic. I mean, you'd have to. I mean, how dense would that plasma have to be to actually be a weapon that's going to do serious damage? And then you'd have to contain it. It would have to stay contained.
Yep.
I like the blaster one where it shoots a little magnetic pellet, which holds on. The magnetic pellet holds on to the plasma, and it's just it's just a ball of plasma contained by ammunition, the magnetic ammunition, and that is the blaster. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, it's having that in a little pistol is problematic, but at least the idea of that makes sense. This looks cool, makes absolutely zero sense.
Right. So yeah, it wasn't on the screen for very long. Interesting weapon, but it wasn't. It was no hero weapon like the sword. So all right, for the plasma bow, guys, what's the consensus? This is a whopper as well. So
what about the cryo grenade?
The cryo grenade, man, yeah.
Cryo grenades are good, and you could see like a massively rapid and powerful endothermic reaction, but the degree of it, I think, is unrealistic.
Right.
I mean, how much energy was being dumped out of that creature to freeze it
and what's the mechanism?
Solid in seconds?
Okay, it's creating an immense amount of cold. How?
Well, it's got to be an endothermic reaction.
Right. And typical with other biological things happening in this movie is the speed that which that happened. This huge creature basically becomes a block of ice in moments, in seconds. So
they also didn't follow their own way of the creatures were already kind of frozen with this thing. You know what I mean? But they came back, which made me think, well, that's just a surface freeze. It's not really.
This was from the inside, so it kind of makes sense.
No, it doesn't, because just because it's on the inside, it would just freeze whatever area is around.
Oh, it was just more contained, like it wasn't diffusing into the atmosphere.
But the whole thing got.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Not the difference between from the outside and from the inside. I think you could make sense of that. But how much? I don't think a chemical reaction like endothermic reaction can do it. You need to be hypothesizing that it's connecting to some 0-point space, whatever, like some physics we don't understand was happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
I mean, if you had something that was absolute zero, which is as cold as it gets, right? If you had something,
but it would have to. It's not that. So something that size that was absolute zero probably would not be able to absorb enough heat to do it. So it had to be just a conduit to an even bigger heat sink than in the size of
dimensional, you mean?
Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, let's judge this.
This is an extra dimensional heat sink, something like that. That's what you would have to hypothesize. So that's I think that's like maybe if we're being generous, that's gimme territory.
No, but the movie doesn't hinge on that. It's not a gimme. That's a whopper. That's a stinking whopper.
Well, yeah, but they needed to subdue that in a realistic way. That was critically important for the plot. What other way can they safely?
That's their problem. That's their problem. It just doesn't make sense. That's it. The thing is what it is. All right, let's do it, Bob. Go ahead.
All right, so this wicked freezing ball thing, what do we give that? This is a whopper.
Whopper.
I'm going to stick with gimme on that one.
I thought we were going to.
All right, but they got the whopper 2-1.
It's weird because we're throwing out a lot of whoppers, which would normally be a death sentence but
because this is a science fiction movie that's pretending to be a fantasy movie. That's why. Yeah. If this were a fantasy movie, it'd all be gimmies. It'd all be fine because it's all magic. But it's not magic; it's technology, and that's where the problem is.
Yeah, but I don't dislike it as I would think I would dislike it, given so many whoppers. You know, it's not to me. I still enjoyed the crap out of it.
It was still fun. It was fun. And Bob, you and I liked it for the same reason. Because we liked the friendship part of it. We liked, the main character had a good story arc and it worked. It was
although they kind of failed at the end, I think. But
they could have done it a lot better at the end.
Elle Fanning was great. I also another bit of technology that I thoroughly enjoyed. Elle Fanning is split in two. She's attaching her legs, and I'm thinking, show it. How are you going to attach it? Make it cool. And for a long time, they weren't showing anything. I'm like, really? You're just going to you're not going to show what method they use. And then she pulls out this. She uses these micro manipulators that are basically
stitching it back together,
putting her back together. And in another scene, when she arrived, was this a flashback where she's injured and she has a device to heal herself. I forget when she pulled that out, but she basically has a handheld device that she opens up, and these little manipulators appear, and they're all in tandem. They're working together. That was a fascinating technology that I really enjoyed the creativity that went into that, because that's a cool manipulator that you would expect them to have, which we clearly don't have. So I love that, and that was let's throw a vote. I think that was what. Soft science for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That one little thing, sure.
That one little thing. Give me that. Give me that.
Okay,
All
let's
right.
do it.
The micromanipulators is
Soft
science. Soft science.
All right, I'm going to talk about the astronomy in this movie because, you're zipping around in space. How did they do with the astronomy? The first few seconds of the movie, there's a scene. It's only on screen for a couple seconds. I had to stop and rewind. Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing there?
Yeah.
And yes. So the Yautja, the Predator homeworld, Yautja Prime, has 3 suns. It's in a trinary system because you see a yellow star and 2 red dwarfs.
I don't know how I missed it.
And I think, and initially it looked like the red dwarf, one of the red dwarfs was partially eclipsed. So a little chunk circular chunk taken out of it. So is that plausible? Could you have a planet in a stable orbit around 3 stars? And the answer is yes. There's 2 ways you can have a planet in a stable orbit in a binary or trinary star system, which is good because that's like a third of the systems in the Milky Way.
Yeah, right.
And that is, one is circumstellar, which is an S-type, and in that one you have a planet around the star, and the other star is far away, so it's not interfering with this orbit. Mm-hmm. That's not what we had here because we saw all 3 stars together. This is the Tatooine situation. Mm-hmm. The other one is called the circumbinary, or a P-type orbit, where you have the planet is far away from the 2 or 3 stars that are relatively close together, and so to the planet, this is just one center of gravity. Yeah.
Right.
And you only need about 2 to 4 times the separation. Like if the stars are at most 1 AU away, you need to be 2 to 4 AUs away in order for
you'll be stable.
In order for it to be stable, in order for this revolution not to be screwing around with the planet's revolution.
Cool.
So yes, you could be in a stable orbit around 3 stars. That's fine.
Right, and the implication there is that if you had 3 stars that had complex orbits around each other and a planet within that orbiting, is basically impossible to be stable.
First of all, we can't model that. This is the 3-body problem, right? We cannot model it. It's too complicated. But it is unstable. It would probably at some point that planet would be ejected out of the system.
Or it would be so variable, freezing over here, but super hot over there, that really nothing could evolve that we can really think of.
But those 3 stars make them tougher, Bob. Don't you get it?
But the other thing you see in that same shot, which is again gorgeous shot, again, who cares? It looks cool kind of approach. Is this massive world, right? And of course, you don't know is that a gas giant and the planet is really a moon of that, or is that just a really close-up moon of the planet? Mm-hmm. You can't tell. It just looks really big. It's theoretically possible that it's just a really nearby gas giant, even though they're not. It's not even though they could both be in orbit around the 3 stars.
Right.
Have you ever seen a picture of what Saturn would look like if it were where Mars is? Like it would be naked eye visible. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so the problem is anything that big, that close, would have massive tidal effects on that world.
Right.
Would that make it impossible for there to be a stable life on that world? I mean, it's almost getting to that point where you have to wonder, how is that possible?
Well, I mean, early in the moon's life, when it was literally 15 times bigger in the sky. The tides were off the hook, as you might imagine.
And this is even bigger than that.
Yeah, this is potentially bigger than that. But back then, the tides would be the size of a mountain, like 10,000 feet tall, and going hundreds of miles of kilometers into the land and scouring out everything and bringing it back.
So this was in a desert, so at least we had that. It wasn't like, if they were by the ocean, I would say no way.
Right, living by the ocean
looked like it was in the middle
thing.
of a desert, so okay, that's...
But even the land tides would be easily detectable, but it wouldn't be inimical to life. I mean, that's fine.
Right.
But I always love a planet that's really close. I always say to myself or out loud, boy, those tides are a bitch on that planet. Don't go near the water.
It's very pretty, but damn, those tides would be
and then there's also tidal heating. It could be like we've got moons of Jupiter that are so close to Jupiter, the tidal heating is essentially overturning the volcanism and the overturning of the surfaces it's happening so frequently.
It can't be that
super
close.
hot. It can't be that too close.
All right. The other thing, astronomically speaking, was everything's got 1G, which is that's a sci-fi trope.
Yeah.
I don't like it though. It's still.
I know. I mean, I appreciate it. Like I know, like on some, like occasionally on Star Trek or whatever, they go, "This is 0.9G or whatever." It's always fairly close to 1G, so they can pretend it's 1G. The thing is, anything other than almost exactly 1G, you would notice it visually because things would not move exactly the same way, and our brains are actually very good at picking up when something is not moving in an inertial frame of 1G, and so. This is just a convenience sci-fi movie trope that everything, everywhere, always is visually at 1G.
And the air is breathable to whoever's on the planet.
Yeah, so that was, but Bob and I were talking about this too. The thing is, there's no humans in this movie.
Yeah,
right.
There's no humans, which is
it's just the predators, the native life, and synths, right? Mm-hmm. So all we really have to say is that the predator can breathe on its home world and this other world that they like to hunt on.
Yeah.
So that's
they wouldn't have picked it for hunting necessarily, but don't forget they usually
sometimes
they usually have their masks on because the more not advanced predators, but the ones that have graduated to the level of competency where they can get a mask, and that even applies to things like the plasma cannons. You can't get that. The neophytes can't get that stuff until you've proved yourself, essentially.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was the typical sci-fi movie trope. We'll just make everything 1G for convenience sake.
Yeah, totally fine with that.
Yeah,
that
doesn't take you. I mean, that's a nerd thing. That doesn't really take you out.
Yeah, at this point,
that's a total gimme.
I give props and extra credit if you actually have a non-1G situation.
That's like the sci-fi eternal gimme. Like everyone's just going to use that for.
And that's fine because the budget would kind of go a little crazier if you had to actually simulate less than or more than 1G. So it's like, I get it. We're not at the point where we could easily do that yet.
Yeah. All right. In terms of the spaceship, again, there's a lot of gimmies to the spaceship. It's like 0G and how was it going faster than light? I think they do have superluminal speed.
But not necessarily in this movie.
Well, yeah.
Why superluminal in this movie?
Because it takes years to get. It would have taken him years to get from his world to the hunting. To
we don't know where it is.
It wasn't in the same system.
Okay.
They have
it wasn't in the same system.
Have FTL. That's it.
Yeah, they have FTL.
Oh yeah, I know that. I'm just thinking for this specific movie, it wasn't blatantly obvious, but yeah.
And the synth said, "You guys have FTL. We don't have that yet," which kind of dates it in the timeline of these movies.
Yeah.
She said, "We don't have FTL yet."
She said that.
Yeah, she said that.
Missed that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so it was a really quick throwaway line, but I definitely picked up on it.
I would think then, I didn't stitch it all together in my head, but if she said we don't have FTL,
how did they get there then? How did
because they travel years to get from one system to another.
That's
why it's all synth.
The most valuable thing on that planet wasn't the creature; it was that ship.
It was that ship.
They should have been like, "Screw everything. We're going to
get
the ship."
Good point, Jay. Good point.
That's absolutely. And all right. So the ship is approaching the planet, and it's a ringed world, and it's plowing through the rings. I mean,
and they've been there before. The species, the predators know.
And again, if you have FTL, you probably have a little bit of auto navigation that could have gotten out of the plane of the rings. But it looks cool.
Yeah. And it gets him off the ship onto the planet.
Well, then he takes a lander, which you could have taken the lander anyway.
True. But that landing was pretty dramatic.
It was dramatic. It could have still been dramatic.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with this ship plowing through rocks and ice, and the windshield is cracking. Now, of course, it's not glass, right? Whatever super material it's made, transparent aluminum, or something. But you do see at one point. And I wouldn't have had as much of a problem if it was just like the rock hits and there's a shatter that is self-contained. It's like, okay, it's engineered to hold together even with we have glass that could do that. But they show the propagating crack through it, which again looks and sounds cool and makes it seem really dangerous. Like you see the crack.
Is it going to blow? Is it going to?
If that were happening, the pressure differential would have blown that out. There's, it's hard to imagine the substance that would propagate it. The whole point is you have to hypothesize non-propagating,
of course,
damage. If it's propagating, that's the problem. The whole thing would have shattered, in my opinion.
You should just not have anything like that and have a computer screen show you.
Or just use another sci-fi movie trope of a shield. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But which again is a
True.
problem. But at least that's kind of a gimme level, very common sci-fi trope.
So he
Or just not plow through the rings of the planet.
Because they've been there. This isn't like a new planet. They've been
Yeah.
there and hunted there.
Even if it were,
for
you can't tell me the ship
generations.
couldn't have autopiloted out
Oh,
away.
it's
from
just
that.
ridiculous. And then he crash lands. The ship, like the main ship, crash lands.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
the lander, the little individual lander
no,
he took
and
down.
his ship crash lands.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
right.
And then it mysteriously is 100% fixed.
Yeah, I
What is
mean,
fixed?
At the
the
end
ship.
of the movie.
Yeah, the ship is space worthy. They should have had it's very easy to put in a throwaway where
Yeah.
like engaging self-repair mode, or you show it repairing itself or something. So that, but we have to just assume that all happened off camera.
Yeah.
Which is not that much of a problem, but it is. Again, you get sort of extra credit if you thought about it and showed it and said, yes, this has had self-repair mechanisms or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
You know, the Predators have to have like their scientists, these really nerdy scientists that are not the big warrior types that are inventing
Yeah.
all of this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Well, in
Or
canon,
they're stealing it.
canon though is that they got a lot of their tech from a species that they conquered.
Yeah.
And they're
How'd
not
they conquer
and they're
them?
not necessarily developing it as you would think, but more just maintaining it and making little tweaks. So that I'm not sure how canon that is, but I think that's accepted.
All right, one little physics thing. You see the ship taking off from the planet, right? And
Yeah, in the beginning.
right.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is kind of a sci-fi trope where you see the Millennium Falcon flying off into space, but the
surrounding
this
area.
would have been 50, 60 Gs of acceleration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That what we're seeing, well, you saw like the Apollo takeoff. They're pulling 5, 6 Gs, and it just doesn't look like it's going that fast.
Right. Right.
This would have been massive
Oh,
Gs.
there has to be inertial dampeners.
Yeah, so but you see him sort of fly back, and it's like he would have been jelly.
Yeah.
And even a Predator would have been absolute jelly.
chunky salsa.
Chunky
Yeah.
salsa, unless you had inertial dampeners, which is a gimme.
Oh my God.
Right.
Gimme. Top tier gimme
Yeah,
there, man.
I mean, at least in Star Trek, they say the words inertial dampeners,
Yeah.
and it's part
Right.
of the technology that they talk about. It can go offline, blah blah. You know what I mean? It's a thing. Here, it's just like not even meant bringing
Yeah.
it up.
This movie is Whopper Central.
It is.
It really
It
is
is.
probably.
Still, I thoroughly
it was
enjoyed
fine. I
it.
know, you still enjoy it.
And I love at the end where you've got Deck, right? You've got Deck, you've got Thea the synth, and you've got the Kalis, who's now like elephant size.
Yeah, and he grew awfully
and
fast.
he grew very fast. Like I just love I want to see a movie with those three.
Mhm.
Just whatever.
Just do a sequel with those three.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that.
All right, so this is kind of hard to call. If we can't really
is.
lump it together, so we have the trinary system is hard science. I
Yeah.
think I have no problem with it. The spaceship and everything is all. I think that was a whopper. The way they handled the ship.
Yeah, I agree.
The inertial dampeners, I'll give that a gimme.
Yeah,
so this
yeah.
is kind of a
It's
combination.
all over the
of
place.
things.
Yeah.
I don't know how you want to call that.
Well, it had to be individual. like
Yeah,
you
we have to
just
call
did.
it individual. All right, so hard science, whopper, gimme
Yes.
for the
Thank you.
astronomy.
Yeah.
our meter almost broke with that.
We broke
Steve.
our
You gotta
meter
slow down.
already.
It was designed for this, guys.
Right? Oh my god. And then overall, did you like the movie? Overall, how did they handle all of these things in the movie on average?
I would say it nets out as a whopper.
it does, and that's out as a whopper.
Yeah, a lot of Whopper. But that said, still, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you're a fan of Predators, the Predator movies, and even the comics and books, I mean, I absolutely will recommend this.
It's a rare instance. I agree with you, Bob,
Right?
because
It's
I'm
weird. I'm
I'm
not sure what
mindfully
to
watching
think.
this movie, thinking we're going to review it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, look at that! Oh God, look at that! Hey, I'm really liking this movie. You
Yeah.
know, like it just
I think for
captures you.
me, like I was flipping back and forth between this is a fantasy movie and
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it versus this is an egregious science fiction movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on like which hat I was wearing while I was watching. You can watch it and as basically if you think this is really a fantasy movie, it's fine.
Yep.
But it's as a science fiction movie, it is egregious.
Well,
Yeah.
what about like science operas like Star Wars? That's fantasy as well.
That is
It's-
science fantasy.
Right,
Yeah.
so-
Star Wars is science fantasy.
Right. So you think of it that way.
Yeah, but
right?
but is
What's
this
difference?
but because
No,
that's
but
this
Predator
franchise
is
is
not
not
that.
is not.
No,
yeah.
but this installment is
Well,
absolutely
but
Bob, it's
more.
in the same universe. Like Predator is soft science. That's its average.
Yeah.
That's it. and this was nowhere near that. Again,
the Predator Alien universe is not science
and
fantasy.
That's the major problem. It's the diversion from the standard.
And I think the reason for it was that they just wanted to dial it up a notch. They wanted to dial it up to 11, and they just did it without a thought to like, are we exceeding physics now? And it turned all of their soft science into whoppers.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to do it. They didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And I do think it's because this was deliberately an eye candy movie. Again, I think probably over and over again, if they even bothered to have the conversation. But, virtually speaking, the conversation was, does this make any sense? Who cares? It looks good.
Yeah.
That was the whole movie. Who cares? It looks good.
Yeah.
And that just dialed it into the Whopper zone to make that happen. And in my opinion, it wasn't necessary. That's the other thing is, this is now getting meta, just talking about blockbuster movies in general. This is an overall trend. It's like, we got to dial up the visuals to 11. Like, this is now the standard. They even did it to The Hobbit. Where they had those ridiculous scenes in the dragon's lair or whatever. I mean, they just did so many things.
Every time they made
over-the-top visuals. Stop already. We don't need the over-the-top visuals. They cease to become entertaining. They just take you out, and they sacrifice the best things. The best thing about this movie was the relationship among those people.
Forget it. They didn't even have it.
Yeah. And at the end, they didn't bring it all home. The whole wolf pack idea, right?
They betrayed the whole wolf pack idea. They had him defeat the other predators, like 2 predators at once, and then his father as an individual. But the whole point was that he learned to be a pack, to be an alpha of a pack, and he didn't defeat them as a pack hunter.
I know that was disappointing, and it's so obvious when you see him like defeat 3 seasoned predators. You're like, wait, what was he on the planet for? A week?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I mean,
no, there's no.
I agree, but also I think you can't fully discount the idea that the father was like, this guy is a runt.
After he saw him kill two thugs, his 2 henchmen. No,
I think it was very hard for his dad to get him out of the incompetent runt category.
No, I disagree.
Even then,
a seasoned warrior like that would identify.
And it doesn't explain the other 2. He's like, kill him. And he kicked their ass 2-on-1. No, they turned him into the Rambo of predators.
Yeah, I mean,
it was not inconsistent. It was inconsistent with the story that they set up, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah, right. How long was he on the planet? I mean, if he was on the planet
years
for enough time to warrant such a level up in skill, that would make more sense. But I don't think he was on there long enough to really warrant that change.
Seemed like he was there a week. That's my gut.
Right.
All right, so guys. We watched the movie. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Watch it as a fantasy movie. Forget that it's that it's breaking the franchise and all of that stuff. You can enjoy it. It is good eye candy if you're thinking it's fantasy.
But this is probably the one and only heavy whopper movie that we're going to ask you to go watch just for fun, right? Because
absolutely.
If you're into that sort of thing, yeah.
So we are Alpha Quadrant 6. If you enjoyed this show, you can consider becoming a patron of ours. You can go to patreon.com/Alpha Quadrant 6. And thank you, and see you guys next week? Because we're dropping episodes every week.